Hello everyone, I'm back after 2 weeks and I'm taking a break from discussing the National Monetization Pipeline, the NMP series, to discuss an equally important topic, the Global Hunger Index rank of India, which may be even more important topic than the NMP series. So I'm taking a break from NMP to discuss essentially the poor rank of India's hunger index. So India dropped to 102 out of 119 countries in the global hunger index rank. And a very interesting note about this is essentially even if India were to be rich tomorrow, our rank may not improve to much, to a great extent. I mean, but why? So I posted this message on my Facebook, and I will read it now for you. That essentially the global hunger index is based upon the indicators, three indicators. I mean, one, the undernourishment; two, the undernutrition; three, the child mortality. And well, uh, today in India we have surplus grains, and we are looking to export these grains even at the subsidized rates. So undernourishment is not a concern because we have surplus food, right? Uh, then what about the child mortality? Even child mortality is not a big concern since we are improving in the mortality rates with the good pace. So child mortality is not a concern, at least in this context. So what remains is child undernutrition, and essentially I'm talking about malnutrition. This parameter seems to be troublesome for India, um, and we have been slowest in the world in this particular parameter. Again, within undernutrition, there are two elements. One is child wasting, one is child stunting. Child wasting is underweight of the child who is 5 years and below, and child stunting is a less height for a child who is 5 years and less. So we have been hardly improving on child stunting at about 1%, uh, but in child wasting, we are in fact going from bad to worse, uh, which essentially tells us that we are kind of filling our bellies with food, but we are not filling our bellies with the right nutrition. And we do know, right? Most of our food content is full of carbs, that is rice and
लेकिन
wheat.
एक सच ये भी है कि लॉकडाउन के दौरान प्रधानमंत्री गरीब कल्याण अन्न योजना के तहत भारत के 80 करोड़ लोगों को हर महीने 5 किलो मुफ्त अनाज दिया गया, लेकिन पश्चिमी देशों की गैर सरकारी संस्थाओं को ये सब दिखाई नहीं देता और ये जब भी भारत के मामले में कोई रिपोर्ट तैयार करते हैं तो उसमें भारत की स्थिति को अक्सर बहुत खराब दिखाया जाता है.
And it hardly has any protein or nutrients in it, and that's a problem. And it's not just a problem with the vegetarian diet. Even the non-vegetarians, the so-called meatarians also in India eat the animal source products, maybe like once or twice in a week, which essentially is for the taste value quotient and not for the nutritional value. So that's where the government has to play its role. Government has to nudge the society to kind of encourage them to eat more nutritious food. And previous governments used to do that. If you remember, we used to have several promotional ads by the government to promote eating egg every day, having to drink milk every day. But somehow these ads are no more uh, uh, existent. Government is not no more promoting eating egg or drinking milk for whatever reasons it may be. It may be due to their ideological reasons, or it may be some other reasons. We don't know. But somehow government is not doing it currently. So now, uh, now you might be thinking that why did I say that India rank is 1 or 2, while media was reporting that India rank was 101. Well, you're correct, but even I'm correct, because the message that I was sharing until now is not a message that I posted on my Facebook today. It's a message that I posted on my Facebook in 2019. So surprised? Yes, even like 2 years back, every word that I just mentioned and every sentence that I just mentioned was relevant in 2019. It's very much relevant even today. So what does that tells us? That we were very, very much aware of what was going wrong, but it's something that we choose not to do anything about it. And after choosing that option, now the Indian government is cribbing about the entire methodology of how the global hunger index is calculated, which doesn't really make sense, right? Because if I was aware of what's going wrong, the Indian government with all its machinery very well knew what was going wrong, right? So it should have at least raised a concern about the ranking, many years back, or it should have worked towards improving that rank. It has done none of these two, and now it doesn't really help to crave or say that, or claim that it's not a level playing field or etc. Right? So now let's discuss the current global hunger index 2021 and what it is telling us. So let's begin at discussing the Global Hunger Index 2021 and what it is telling us. India slipped 7 spots on the recent Global Hunger Index 2021. That is from 101 to 94. That is from 94 in 2020 to 101 in the current year. And it's trailing behind its South Asian neighbors, be it Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even Nepal. So India is worst performing in the child wasting category, which essentially means the weight for height category among children who are 5 years or less. And India's score for Global Hunger Index in the recent 2 decades has declined by 10 points. It slipped from 28.8 in 2021 from 38.8 in 2000. So the report is also telling us that the child wasting in India increased from 17.1% between 98 2002 to 17.3% between 2016 and 20. So the Global Hunger Index tracks hunger and malnutrition and also showed that 18 countries, including China, Brazil, Kuwait, shared the top rank with a GHI score of less than 5. The Irish Aid Agency, Concern Worldwide, and Germany's Welt Hunger High Life jointly worked on this report and termed India's situation as very alarming. The four indicators that were considered for calculating this particular rank are, as I said, it's undernourishment, child wasting, which is percentage of children below 5 years of age who have low weight for their height, reflecting acute undernutrition. Child stunting, percent of children below 5 years of age who have low height for their age, reflecting chronic undernutrition. And child mortality, the mortality rate of children under age of 5. India ranked among the worst in child wasting, as we discussed earlier. Its performance was worse than Somalia. We all know how the political and economic situation is in Somalia, and India has performed worse than Somalia. So you can imagine what the current situation the Indian kids are going through. 17.3% of children under 5 years of age in India were stunted during 2016 and 2020. This was an increase of 15.1% from 2010 to 2014. At this rate, 47 countries, including India, will not be able to reach the low level of hunger by 2020. By 2030. In fact, India's rank dropped by 2 places in Global Sustainable Development Report 2021, primarily because of the major challenges like ending hunger and achieving food security. India has shown promise over the past decade in reducing maternal and child mortality. Even this we discussed earlier, right? And it must also assert that right to food for all and making zero hunger a reality. People have been severely hit by COVID-19 and the pandemic related restrictions in India, especially. We have seen how the labor force were walking on the roads to reach their destinations, right? So India was hit by double whammy, definitely by COVID, uh, which is the virus, plus the lockdown, the most strict lockdown any country has enforced, right? So which in a way led to an increase in the child wasting rate. So it becomes even more important that India ensures food security under from in multiple fronts. So definitely COVID has worsened the situation. Even the current weather extremes that we are experiencing, right? Currently, there's a heavy rain on a certain day. The very next day, the sun is so bright. So it this uh, un, this situation where it's unpredictable weather affects the agriculture to a large extent, and we all know that. So even the global climate change is also affecting the situation in India, and definitely India always has its economic and health challenges, right? So all these three combined are impacting how India is performing at this particular index. And then there is inequality within India, right? There's a huge disparity between different communities, different castes. So there are vulnerable castes and communities within India who are way more vulnerable to the current situations, and their situations are worsened even more. Right. So, among the most powerful and the toxic forces are the climate change, the COVID, and the internal conflicts. These are three C's which this report has identified might be a reason why India is performing poorly. And since 2014, after Narendra Modi government was formed, India rank slipped from 55, uh, and it's been declining since then. Uh, it was 18 in 2015, 97 in 2016, 100 in 2017, 103 in 2018, 102 in 2019, 94 in 2020, and now it's 101. With a score of 27.5, India has a level of hunger that is very serious. The report prepared by the organizers of this particular survey, as stated by the organizers of the survey. So before I tell about this, how this index is calculated and what is the procedure behind it, behind it, let me also mention the two agencies who combinedly worked uh, on this. One, there's an agency from Germany, which is Welthunger Life, which is the biggest private organization for development and humanitarian aid in Germany. And there's an Irish agency which is Concern Worldwide, which is Ireland's largest aid and humanitarian agency. These two agencies have collaborated in conducting the survey or calculating this index. And how did it? Essentially, the data on undernourishment is collected by the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, while the wasting and stunting information is collected by UNICEF, WHO, World Bank, and demographic and health survey programs figures. The mortality numbers are taken from the United Nations Interagency Group for Child Mortality Estimation. Based on these values of the four indicators, the GHI determines hunger on a 100-point scale, where 0 is the best possible score and 100 is the worst. Each country's GHI score is classified by severity from low to extremely alarming. Um, According to this report, 15.3% of the population of India is undernourished. 17.3% of children under 5 are wasted. 34.7% of Indian kids under 5 are stunted. 3.4% of children die before the fifth birthday. The Women and Child Development Ministry alleged that the entire procedure uh, is incorrect, and they don't agree with it. Don't agree with the Indian government, uh, which essentially means I don't agree with their disagreement. Because if they disagree with it, they should have mentioned it much before, even before the rank has been published. So it looks very convenient, right? Once the rank was published and it did not go as they estimated, then they started making the entire fuss about it, right? So definitely I don't agree with what Indian government is claiming. So for a moment, let's assume that Indian government is correct, and let's assume that the entire procedure adopted to calculate GHI, the Global Hunger Index, is incorrect. Then how does the government explain the following two newspaper headlines? The recent newspaper headlines. Indians are taller than they were a century ago, but the generational growth in height may be tapering off in the country far earlier than in other Southeast Asian countries. A simplified headline essentially is Indian children may no longer outgrow their parents, which means the current Indian generation may not grow longer in their height when compared to their parents. This is very contrary to the popular belief that the succeeding generations usually outgrow in their height compared to the parents, right? And why it is happening? Well, it is a very well known that Indians are among the shortest people in the world. But could Indians, contrary to the global trend, be getting further shorter? Between the two most recent rounds of National Family Health Survey, the NFHS 4 in 2015 and 16 and the NHS 3 in 2005 and 6, Indian men on average were 1 centimeter shorter, while Indian women remained roughly of the same height. The biggest fall in male height came in Karnataka, followed by Jharkhand and Haryana. In aggregate terms, the decline in height falls within sampling errors, but that may not be true because there is no evidence, or there is also no evidence to state that we are growing in our height. So that's definitely a cause of concern. In the previous decade, 95 to 96 to 2005 to 2006, average male height grew by 0.5 centimeter. Only in 6 states there was an observed fall in the average height, according to the NFHS data. In both the earlier decade and the last decades, the greatest increments in female height was observed in Kerala. The biggest improvement in male height in the late 90s and early 2000s was also observed in Kerala, while in the most recent decade, this turned out to be in Himachal Pradesh. Genes. So, is it due to genes? Well, genes contribute to only a fraction or a small portion of adult height, while the environmental factors, including mother's health, the child health, child or the infant health, and the child nutrition, sanitation, the environmental, and the other pollution factors form the bulk of the reason why this is happening. The research has shown in India that the forward caste men are the tallest, while the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribesmen are the shortest. In 2016, a major study estimated adult heights across 200 countries of the world from the years 1896 to 1996 was found that they were growing taller in most countries except some few Saharan countries. The rate of change varied drastically across countries. The largest gains occurred in South Korean women as well as in the Iranian men, who became 20.2 centimeter and 60.5 centimeter taller, respectively. There were also large gains in height in Japan. We usually assume that Japanese are shorter in height, but it's not true. Japanese are taller than Indians. There were also large gains in height in Japan, Greenland, some countries in Southern Europe and Central Europe. But while people continue to grow taller in some Southern European countries, many countries in Latin America and some in Southeast Asia, including China and Thailand, they're not getting taller. So they have kind of stopped getting taller. Now the question arises that China has been seeing a lot of growth in the recent years. Then how come they're not growing taller? So is it the height not directly proportional to the economic status of a country? So let's explore. This would become clearer when we talk about US. The US was the first Western country to stop growing, followed by North European and East European countries. In Asia, the rise in height in Japan stopped around in people born after the early 1960s. In South Korea, the flattening began in cohorts born in 1980s for men. It may have just begun in women. But in Bangladesh and India, especially in South Asia, the rise in adult height seems to have plateaued at best, and this plateau has been hit at much lower levels of height than when compared to East Asia. Indians are not growing much, although they are still 5 to 10 centimeters shorter than Japan and South Korea when they plateaued. In fact, in the NCD Risk C database, this is an historical database created by the global team of researchers for this specific study. The height of Indian men has slightly declined every year. Decline of height year on year from mid 80s, starting from the cohort born in 1984. Men who would today be 35 years old. Female height was still growing slowly. Indian men born in 1896 were on average 1 centimeter taller than Chinese men and 2 centimeters taller than South Korean men. Seen over time, Indians are undoubtedly taller than they were a century ago, but at best, improvements in child stunting have not been fast enough to match India's pace of growth. And at worst, Indians have finished growing taller far earlier than expected. So it's clear now, right? Even though there are other countries who have stopped growing in their height, the disadvantage with Indians are that we have stopped growing in our height much earlier than what the other countries have observed. So it essentially means we would be much shorter in height as a race when compared to the other countries for a long period of time. This height study also confirms to us the premise that I was mentioning towards the initial part of my discussion, right? That independent of countries' economic prospects, the nutrition standards of a country is largely dependent upon the nutrition that we put in our bodies. So independent. So essentially, that means independent of India's economic prospects, in the nutrition standards of India have been under constant pressure, and it seems to be declining. And why it is happening? And I have discussed this to some extent towards the beginning of this discussion, but I would like to explain it in much details now. Animal-based products provide maximum nutrients, proteins and vitamins, and animal-based products are the most cost-effective as well in terms of a source of nutrients and proteins. Some may argue that there are plant-based products which can act as good substitutes for animal-based proteins and nutrients. And they go ahead and argue that in fact plant-based products have much higher portions of proteins and nutrients when compared to the animal-based products. But here the question largely is it good enough to have a large portion of protein in a certain source. The real question could be that how much of these proteins and nutrients are well absorbed or optimally absorbed by our body and very efficiently utilized by our body. So this question becomes much more important than the former question, because it doesn't really matter how much nutrients or proteins are present as long as we are not consuming them in a much efficient manner. So the hormones in our body are trained for millions of years to absorb nutrients and proteins plus vitamins from the animal sources. So even today we absorb these important sources of energy way more optimally and efficiently from the animal sources when compared to the plant-based sources. So to gain the same amount of proteins and nutrients, we have to eat or consume a lot more plant-based sources when compared to the animal products, which essentially means we will end up eating a lot bigger portions of plant-based sources when compared to the animal-based sources, which essentially might lead us into a lot of other ailments like diabetes, blood pressure, heart diseases, etc., etc. So which since animal based products gives us the required nutrients, proteins with much smaller portions, this also makes animal based products or source of energy much more cost effective, and it's also a lot friendlier with our bodies, as we discussed, right?
I'll take one problem which I witnessed personally: malnutrition. Malnutrition is because they don't have vegetables, they don't have protein, they don't have milk. And if I saw a hut in which an old woman was living. Her face was all almost black. There was no flesh on her cheeks. So we thought that we should do something about her. You know, all these things we have to take one case at a time. She was happy to receive HCL Walas. We put a kitchen garden just around that area and use the best methods to grow vegetables. Now the kitchen garden which I am talking about is 10 square feet. That land was not formally transferred to her or anything, but every government officer supported this project. Then we put the seeds and grew the vegetables. It grows in no time. The next time when I went around, her face, in her cheek there was some flesh on it. First time when I went there, there wasn't anything. And my daughter is actively involved in this program. So when she went there, she did something which none of you will like. She forced them to eat chicken. Say that without protein, how are these children going to grow? And milk became compulsory in these schools. But it was a good thing to do. वो सब रोटी खाने वाले हैं. They don't just eat rice. And the people who eat roti as your basic food, if you force them to eat rice, they'll just take it and put it aside. एक चीज़ है, रोटी खाना हो, you have to have it when it is straight taken away from the fire. It can't be cooked and it is cold and you eat it. And where will they go and get these rotis? We had to change these habits that, oh, the mother is cooking and the child is sitting and she's making a roti and give it to him. Only when it is hot, the child can eat the roti without dal or sabji. So they have, if you see them, they're short. You try and go to remember the height of these children from Awadh to Varanasi. They'll all be very short. Average height will be low. If you go to Western UP, they are taller. But if you go to this area, some of them are already stunted. It's a very sad state which has to be picked up from where it is. So we have worked on many things, building chicken farms around. Very surprisingly, there was also fish farms that we could build. This is all done by young HCL executives who have not seen anything else, excepting they are certain that when they complete 5 years, they will get overseas postings and go elsewhere. We upgraded the Nutrition Rehabilitation Center to cater to a large number of children while improving its occupancy rate from what was 30% to now 75%.
So, and I would probably talk in much detail about the entire nutrition and our habits of eating, etc., in a separate video. For now, I will end this discussion here. And before I end the discussion, I would definitely like to point out that for a middle income country like India, some call it as a poor country as well. For a country like India, it's very important that we make our source of energy way more efficient and cost effective, right? So simply because we can't afford an expensive source of energy in the way of plant-based products. But to the contrary, for some years now, we are being nudged by various forces within the country and in the society to give up animal sources of nutrition for whatever reason it may be. It could be an ideological reason, or it could be due to their belief system or their religious beliefs, which is very detrimental to our well-being, and we are seeing the adverse effects of it on our current generation, and we would continue to see that effect in our future generations as well, unless we do something going forward. They would never. But these forces who are nudging us into a wrong direction would never answer why has God designed us in such a way that our body demands our body demands vitamins from the animal based sources, like vitamin B, which is only present in the animal based. Right? So it's clear that God designed us as omnivorous beings, and then for us to be not so is going against God's will. Well, if you believe in God, you should believe this as well, right? Previous governments also to some extent used to nudge the society and us to eat at least eggs and drink milk by running various promotions like Sunday Hoya Monday, Rose Kaya Ande.
Eggs.
Eggs for taste.
Eggs for fun.
Eggs are good for everyone. Eggs, 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 eggs. Boiled egg, fried egg, omelette, sweeten up eggs.
भले कमाल दा egg.
Any time of the year.
Egg.
Any time of the day.
Egg.
Eggs are health. Eggs are strength. Eggs taste great. Eggs are fun. Eggs to work. Eggs to play. Eggs, 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 eggs every day. Boiled eggs. Fried eggs. Omelets. Eggs, eggs, eggs for everyone.
संडे खाना, मंडे खाना, रोज जम के खाना, ऑमलेट खाना, भुर्जी खाना, बॉइल्ड अंडे खाना, सॉल्ट पेपर ब्रेड बटर सॉस लेके खाना, अंडे खाना।
इसमें प्रोटीन, विटामिन, मिनरल्स का है ये खजाना।
चुस्ती फुर्ती फाट शक्ति एनर्जी बढ़ाना, स्ट्रॉन्ग बॉडी फिट बॉडी सबको दिखाना, छोड़ो छुरी काटा अरे हाथ से ही खाना, अंडे खाना।
संडे हो या मंडे, रोज अंडे खाओ, टप्पन जाओ। कट्टे कट्टे अंडे रोज खा के कट्टे कट्टे तुम बन जाओ। कट्टे अंडे, कट्टे अंडे, कट्टे अंडे, कट्टे अंडे। अरे क्या खाता है? जो अंडे रोज खाते हैं वो हट्टे कट्टे होते हैं।
अब किनसे हाथ मिलाओ?
अंडे खाओ, हट्टे कट्टे बन जाओ।
आओ बच्चों तुम्हें बताए फायदे अंडे खाने के। इस अंडे में भरी हुई है ताकत तुम्हें जिताने की। अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम, अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम। नजरों को ये तेज करे और हड्डी स्ट्रॉन्ग बनाता है। विटामिन्स, प्रोटीन्स, मिनरल्स का ये एक अनमोल खजाना है। अंडे शाकाहारी है ये बापूजी का कहना है।
अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम, अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम। तन मन को मजबूत करे,
ये दिमाग को तेज बनाता है।
प्रदूषण ना करे असर जब बच्चा अंडा खाता है। रखे खून को साफ ये त्वचा में रौनक लाता है। अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम।
है सस्ता और गुणकारी ये अंडा एक अजूबा है।
ना हो अंडा खाने में तो फिर पोषण अधूरा है।
केला आधा काम करे पर अंडा करता पूरा है।
अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम, अंडे खाओ नरम या अंडे खाओ गरम।
जरा सोचिए, बच्चे कल के नेता हैं, उनकी सेहत के साथ राजनीति मत खेलिए। अपने बच्चों को रोज अंडा खिलाइए, उनका भविष्य बनाइए। आखिर अंडा शाकाहारी है।
छोटू मोटू पप्पू राजू मंडे टू संडे, दिन या रात खाओ साग अंडे ही अंडे। ऑमलेट भी खाओ, बॉयल भी खाओ या कच्चे ही खाओ। चुन्नू मुन्नू पिंकू रिंकू मंडे टू संडे, सुन लो आज हल्का राज अंडे ही अंडे। संडे हो या मंडे, रोज खाओ अंडे।
कौन ऐसा बोलता है कि ये इंडियन चिकन हेल्दी नहीं है?
గుడ్డుని తినండి, శక్తిని పెంచండి, కల్తీ లేని ప్రోటీన్స్ 100% గుడ్డులో. గుడ్డుని తినండి, శక్తిని పెంచండి. పెంచండి పిల్లలు రోజు భుజించని దేహం శక్తితో మెరవని తక్కువ ధరకి దొరకును అధిక శక్తిని వసగును ఇది ప్రకృతి అద్భుత ఆహారం
మీరు ఛాంపియన్ అవ్వాలంటే ప్రతిరోజు తినండి గుడ్డు
గుడ్డుని తినండి శక్తిని పెంచండి
वकील अरे चिकन में कुछ काला है गड़बड़ घोटाला है लगती है भोली पर ओका
ऑब्जेक्शन मिलॉर्ड अपना चिकन फौरन को जाता है फिरंगी सुमड़ी में कोमड़ी खाता है फुल एक्सपोर्ट जानी अरे बंद करना अकेली कहानी
इंडियन चिकन बाइजोत बरी रोज खाओ तंदूरी आमलेट चिकन करी प्यार की छुट्टी
इंडियन चिकन फिटम फिट
पापा मेरा फ्रेंड विक्की कहता है कि गर्मियों में अंडे नहीं खाते।
अच्छा मैंने तो नहीं सुना मेरे पापा से पूछ लो।
ओ यार मैंने भी नहीं सुना तू एक काम कर मेरे पापा से पूछ ले।
बड़े दादाजी मेरा फ्रेंड विक्की कहता है
क्या कहता है?
गर्मियों में अंडे नहीं खाते।
गलत बात। अंडे नहीं खाओगे तो गर्मियों में एनर्जी और ताकत कहाँ से लाओगे? उस विक्की के दादा को कुश्तियों में सैकड़ों बार ऐसे ही नहीं हराया। बोलो उसको सर्दी हो या गर्मी
संडे हो या मंडे रोज खाओ अंडे अंडे।
क्या चाहिए? काके ऑमलेट चाहिए।
10 अंडों का।
ओए संता बता दे गर्मी में अंडा नहीं बनता।
छोटू नहीं बनता।
कौन कहता है गर्मी में अंडा नहीं बनता?
अंडे बना दे।
और सारा अकेला ही खा जाएगा।
बिरयानी अंडा मसाला अंडा।
What can I do for you?
सनी मिलेगा।
Sunny? Oh, you mean to sunny side up, huh? मिलेगा जी, जरूर मिलेगा।
Yes, the other ad which I remember now is dood. That particular ad which kind of promotes drinking milk on a daily basis.
पियो ग्लास फुल दूध है वंडरफुल पी सकते हैं रोज ग्लास फुल दूध गर्मी में डालो दूध में आइस दूध बन गया वेरी नाइस पियो डेली वंस और ट्वाइस मिल जाएगा टेस्टी सरप्राइज वंडरफुल दूध पियो ग्लास फुल दूध है मस्त in every season पियो दूध for healthy reason रहोगे fit and fine जियोगे past 99 got to have a milk चारों ओर मच गया शोर give me more give me more wonderful दूध पियो ग्लास फुल दूध।
Well, when talking all these ads make me nostalgic about that era. Like how we felt nostalgic when Cadbury reinvented its very nostalgic ad with new message. Even our government can do a similar thing today by recreating this nostalgic ads in promoting consumption of eggs and milk, but the question is whether it will do, and it looks like it will not do that simply because it doesn't conform with their ideology, right? So, and it's not just about nudging and promoting certain eating habits. Worst of it all is even the midday school programs, which government kind of introduced to encourage the kids from deprived societies to come forward and attend the schooling. In these programs, it's in recent times it's been observed that the right nutrients are not present, especially because egg is missing in most states from these midday school programs.
वेलकम बैक। कर्नाटका से एक फ्रेश कंट्रोवर्सी। इस बार अक्षय पात्रा फाउंडेशन द्वारा सात्विक मिड डे मील परोसे जाने पर विवाद हो गया है। विवाद की शुरुआत तब हुई जब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने ऑर्डर जारी कर खाने में गार्लिक और अनियन इस्तेमाल करने को कहा, साथ ही एनजीओ को सरकारी मेन्यू का पालन करने का आदेश भी दिया। इसके तुरंत बाद अक्षय पात्रा फाउंडेशन ने बयान जारी कर कर्नाटका सरकार के सभी आरोपों को निराधार बताया।
This is the government Tamil Model Primary School in Austin Town, Bengaluru, and it is one of the 15,024 schools that ISKCON's Akshay Patra provides midday meals to. But the organization has been mired in a controversy where civil rights organizations such as Janaswasthya Abhiyan and the Right to Food are campaigning against Akshay Patra's undeterred stand against the use of onion and garlic in the food served to school children. A fresh controversy broke out after a national paper, The Hindu, reported that children are refusing to eat the midday meal served by Akshay Patra as it is bland and tasteless. Right to Food campaigners jumped right in and also claimed that Akshay Patra is imposing their religious beliefs on children, but the foundation has denied the charge. Akshay Patra's CEO told the print that the organization does not believe in imposing religion through food, and its only aim is to provide hot, hygienic and nutritious food to school children.
All these years, Akshay Patra has strived for nutrition, good taste and safe meals. Okay? So when it comes to nutrition of our meals, we have data which we measure to check whether the meal which we give is nutritious. So we have people who measure the quality of ingredients. There is a vendor level quality check. Okay? So nutrition is something which we hold very close to our heart, okay? And nutrition is something which we advocate and we live by it. So the meal which we give is very nutritious, takes into account the requirement of a child.
Onion and garlic, they claim that zinc and iron that comes from the food, it helps in absorbing it in the bloodstream. But there are other substitutes also which you through your research have found, like leafy vegetables and drumsticks and others and turmeric which you provide in the food. Yes. So you're saying that completely doing away does not hurt the child's development?
It does not. It doesn't hurt.
And it's a proven scientific fact.
And I also like to mention that we have data of impact studies where we have seen that how the child's weight has improved, how the child's BMI has improved. We give one meal. The child may be eating, let's take 2 or 3 meals a day. We give one unlimited meal.
Akshay Patra says the National Institute of Nutrition has certified that the nutritive value of an Akshay Patra meal certainly meets and often exceeds the prescribed energy and protein requirements. But Right to Food campaigners say this report is biased and not based on any empirical evidence or investigation.
Akshay Patra has made a big deal about the clean chit given by NIN. First of all, actually no samples were sent to NIN. NIN has given its opinion completely based on a paper menu submitted by Akshay Patra. Now we went to various schools. When we asked the children if they have any problem with onion and garlic, they said we have absolutely no problem with onion and garlic. We asked the people who were serving if they have a problem with onion and garlic. They said we have no problem with onion and garlic. We asked them whether they will like it if there is onion and garlic in the food. They said yes, we would like it if there is onion and garlic in the food.
First sambar, white rice, and other days they give bath, rice bath, bisibela bath, then rice bath, vangi bath, like that differently. Vegetable palav, payasam also they give, curd and buttermilk they give, like taste is good.
Till now there have been no complaints?
No. So far no complaints.
6-year-old Pranton has been attending his government primary school for 2 years now. He looks forward to go to school and he and his friends not only get to study, but they also get to eat a hot meal as well as a fruit and bowl of curd in the afternoon. A diet many of their parents cannot afford.
Pranton, மத்தியானம் லஞ்சுக்கு நீ என்ன சாப்பிட்ட?
பருப்பு குழம்பா?
பிடிச்சதா உனக்கு? என்னைக்கு நீ சாப்பிடுவியா? ஃபுல் ஒன் பிளேட் ஃபுல்லாக முடிச்சிடுவியா? உனக்கு ஸ்கூல் எதுக்கு வரா நீ? ஸ்கூல் படிக்கிறதுக்கு வரியா, நீ சாப்பாடு உனக்கு பிடிச்சிட்டு வரியா?
படிக்கிறதுக்கு.
அப்படியா?
Their parents are working in coolie work only, they go, no ma'am. They don't prepare food. Early in the morning they go. Because of this food, they are regular to school and they like it, ma'am.
Karnataka's Chief Minister H.D. Kumaraswamy has suggested that partner organizations of the midday meal scheme should include local kitchen staples, including onion and garlic. But the Akshay Patra community believes that onion and garlic are tamasic, meaning they may trigger lethargy and negative emotions. And they also feel that children, if given an organic vegetarian sattvic diet, can help in their holistic development. Akshay Patra, which is run by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness or ISKCON, prepares midday meals for 17.6 lakh students across 42 locations in 12 states in India. In Karnataka, one hot meal costs rupees 14.33 per plate, of which 5.87 comes from the state government, while the remaining 8.46 rupees is raised by Akshay Patra to donations.
It does pain us because, all our people, they strive hard. Because you see, you have children at home, right? If 5 people come or 10 people come home, after some time you develop some kind of wariness, right? Akshay Patra does this day after day for all schooling days, right? And we strive hard. We have a fundraising team which goes out and raises money. We have an operations team which is very, very committed and tries to make the best in terms of operational efficiency. So when we see our endeavors being questioned, it does sometimes pain us. But we are very thankful to the government for extending all the support to us. And we are also very sure that this controversy eventually will get resolved.
This is not the first time that the Akshay Patra Foundation has been embroiled in a controversy related to the midday meal scheme. The foundation had refused to follow the recommendation of the Odisha Mass Education Department to serve eggs to children as part of their meal. Akshay Patra had flatly refused, but then a solution has been found where the schools were asked to procure eggs from another source and provide for it, while Akshay Patra Foundation would bear the costs of the procurement. But one only hopes that children are not caught in the crossfire of principles.
Programs. And the reason again is essentially again is the same. It's the same. It's the ideology which is hampering a certain NGO, a very well known NGO, from providing egg in their midday meal programs, which is very surprising because this particular NGO gets funded by the government, also by many other sources. Only reason they fund this particular NGO is because they have been out of hope that they will provide a very nutritious food for the deprived societies. But to the contrary, this has not been happening, and very brazenly this particular NGO has been talking against the government procedures, especially because they don't want to have they don't want to provide egg in their meal because it doesn't align with their ideology, right? So this essentially has been depriving our kids, especially from those who come from the deprived communities, of the essential nutrients, proteins and vitamins. And these families being poor, they may never be able to make up for that or substitute the lost nutrients and proteins by a plant-based product. So now the essential question that arises is, both for the government and for the parents, is your ideology or belief system bigger than your child's health and well-being? Sit alone, ponder over it, you will get an answer. Thank you.